Yeah, so this is Save It for the podcast show, episode 4, with special guest Keith Nweze. How you feel, good brother?
I feel good. How about yourself?
Really good, really good,
Thank
really
you for
good.
having me.
Thank you for being here, man. You know, this is this is not abnormal for us. Just the microphones and the camera,
That's what we
but
do.
you know what I mean. The conversations they predate this, and may very well live past the podcast. You know what I mean? If the podcast don't do what it need to do.
No, I doubt that. I doubt that.
Yeah.
We'll be doing many more.
For sure, for sure. Um, so you've just recently put out your latest book, Struggle, right? And this is book number what?
6.
Book number 6.
Mm.
And when did you put out your first book?
2009.
2009. So in 11 years, including a pandemic, you've put out 6 books.
I've been active.
That's fantastic, man.
That's
fantastic. Your writing style is incredibly, in my opinion, incredibly like it's clear that you are very contemplative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of layers in the way that you write, in the way that you paint a picture, or different references that you use. And I think this book is a really, really good example of that. You know what I mean? Like there are layers. You know what I mean? So nobody is just who they are at work. Mm-hmm. Nobody is just who they are at home. Nobody is just who they are in their playtime or whatever. Like we all have dynamic to us and dimension to us. You know what I mean? And this book is, your experiences, firsthand experiences, and the things that you learned, the insights that you gotten from those experiences, but of things that happened to you, of environments that you were in, of who you were in those times and places. And it really just gives like a really dope, like comprehensive picture. You know what I mean? So how did you even come to the idea of writing this particular book?
Shit, well, number one, thank you. I appreciate that. You did your homework. Life, this experience of living, living and meeting people and going through situations,
right?
Helping people through their struggles, welcoming my own, dealing, overcoming, and then having another struggle.
Yeah.
All of these things, I just felt it was a commonality. It was something that connects us all in that struggle.
Okay.
We it's a struggle for us to even come here.
Right.
Right. Take our first breath.
Right.
And the things that, life, society.
This is true.
America, being African American, being a Black male, being in these situations that you said.
Yeah.
There's a high level of struggle.
Yeah.
And I wanted to capture that. I wanted to use it as a form of therapy for myself and others. And I pray that I was honest enough in my attempt.
Yeah. I believe so. So to kind of open up the book in terms of like what exactly it's about, can you just speak to what is Struggle about?
Yeah, I mean it's a period piece. So it's essentially capturing my life from 2013 to 2019.
Okay.
And my experiences as a bouncer, as a caseworker, as a father, boyfriend, and a man.
Yeah.
And just the ups and downs.
Yeah.
The first part, as you mentioned, it shows me in the light of working. So I was a bouncer at a renowned strip club called Jersey Girls, and I had to deal with that level, intoxication and conflict,
right?
Everything that comes with a physical job,
right?
And then in the AM, I'm doing case management work for DYFS,
right?
And I'm dealing with abuse and neglect,
and
separation, and trying to unify people,
right?
To ultimately put myself in my own struggle, and lose the very things and people that I wanted the most, my family. So the book is very personal. It's honest, visual. It's a mix of narratives and poetry.
Right.
So it really lends itself to a wide range of people.
Right. Let's talk about strip clubs first.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right. So yeah, you were a bouncer at Jersey Girls. I would say is the most renowned strip club in New Jersey, or was the most renowned strip club in New Jersey. I can't imagine what other strip club had the same um, uh, reverence in and the same position in terms of in the entertainment industry and you know in hip hop, celebrities and athletes and you know what I mean. And the money that girls were able to make at that time. Um, but you had a vantage point that most people just don't have. You know what I'm saying? You're like one of the few people who are not there to have fun at all. Like that is not a part of your job. You know what I mean?
We have our fun. We have our moments.
I'm sure. But it's you're around revelry. You're around uninhibited behavior. You're around gasoline on the fires of carnal nature, whether it's fight or fuck. Like you're in that space very much, and your role is to be sober, to be sharp, to de-escalate. You know what I mean? To make sure that everybody is protected from each other. You know what I mean? Because it's not just one side. You know what I mean? Everybody, like there's multiple angles and things are coming from different directions. What are some of the things that being in that position and having the vantage point that you had kind of opened your eyes to in terms of how you saw human behavior?
Well, it was like a crash course. It's college in a sense. Because you could see someone from sober to drunk. You could see someone from Jennifer to champagne. You could see someone from Raekwon to Corey, or a football player. What I mean by that is it was a reality and fantasy all at once.
Copy.
Depending on why you were there and what you want to get out of the experience.
Right.
How much you partake in the atmosphere, whether it be the women, the alcohol, drugs, or the power that all three of them provided. I was, bouncers are essentially paid to protect the liquor license.
Wow, that's succinct.
Keep the doors open.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you jeopardize that, then you're expendable.
Right.
So you're never value. Your value, like the best owner, the long-term owner, always values this security because it's security passed down, the security monitors and protects that liquor license.
Right.
The clubs that open, close, or never reopen again are the ones who valued everything but. And to answer your question, in order to do that, you have to understand people because you're having these very big dynamics, beautiful, voluptuous women with big personalities. You have a central location that touches the Turnpike, Parkway South 1 and 9, which essentially gives you an entry from New York to different counties in North Jersey. And you had a location that was kind of in a dead end area, so you had seclusion. So you can be whoever you wanted to be.
Right.
And our job was to diffuse conflict and to make sure everybody followed a level.
Yeah.
And in order to get home safe every night, I had to do my homework.
Right.
On myself and others.
Right.
I had to understand how I responded and how they responded.
Yeah. So that's a really dope distinction to make, like learning how you respond. Because everybody walks around thinking that they're at the center and that they are in the right. You know what I mean? And and at the very least are justified.
Correct.
Like even if I'm not right, I'm justified. And that's enough. Right. Yeah. But to learn like how you respond has got to be a really valuable insight.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And being able to identify in others like how they're likely to respond. Like if having seen this movie and the different iterations of it over and over and over again, night after night, trial and error, right? But then you start to like get wise to like how people behave, and how people move and how people think, and you can then kind of intercept things in advance. You know what I mean? You can anticipate and then intercept. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you this: the Jersey Girl run that you speak on, I was there 4 nights a week, Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
So the probability of me not being in the altercation is
right.
So
Right.
after you're in a couple intense ones, ones where you barely, with outside's looking in like, oh, he handled yours, but no, really, I just slipped that jab that barely caught me in the temple, or that bottle that was thrown just skipped me, or that bullet that was shot New Year's 2011 went this way. So but going through those where your heart rate goes from here to there, you have to study to survive.
Yeah.
And that's why it was college, because it was so much visually, it was so much temptation, it was so much money. They made money, we made money. It was so many agendas, activity in front of you that can all go left. And you're in an area where cats can comfortably pop their trunks. If if that's where their mind takes them. And that's you're conscious of that also. So this was a time where I had to deal with struggle on the other side. I'm there to deal with conflict. And that's a struggle within itself, because once again, if you don't know yourself, you're not going to project it. And if you don't project it, when you come over there, they're going to view you as enemy and not as big bro or homie or he just work here. They're not going to hear you say, yo, chill. They're going to hear, oh, op.
Right.
And so it's all lived experience. It's something that I'm grateful, but also regretful.
I mean, that's fair. What would you say, like, you observed and learned in terms of other people's struggles in that environment? Like, of course, you have the struggle of managing all this energy. You know what I mean? While playing the back, like your job is not to be in the center. You know what I'm saying? Or in the front necessarily. Your job is to hopefully lead from behind, so to speak. You know what I mean? But what did you get to learn and observe about other people and how they were kind of masking their struggles or deflecting their struggles, or you know what I mean?
Strip club is right in front of you. What I mean to say by that is, you're not acknowledging a strip club unless you're bringing some type of disposable income to the table. You have to be willing to spend on all. So you'll see alcoholism in front of you, sexism, you'll see classism, you'll see people's insecurities. You'll see it all in front of you, because that's the main event. After you was on the block all day, or you was in the ballroom all day, the strip club is the prime hours are from, usually 11 to 2 to 3 in the morning. So, it's there. I mean, what I've seen is insecurities, and I've seen our self-hate. Because I worked in, not to just queuing on Jersey girls, just to compare it to other places. It was more, I say in the book, it was more fights in Hoboken, far more, double the amount, than there triple. The intensity of our fights, the real means to hurt one another is different. To where one of ours is like equals like one of us like 20 to theirs, because we're going for blood, and that's the self-hate, the conditioning.
For
that's
sure.
what you're seeing in this place. And then how we treat our women, what our women have to do to get paid, how they have to alter themselves to continue to get paid. And so you see it all. I tried to capture that in struggle. I do plan on just visiting Jersey girls and writing something exclusively on that. But struggle was just from the vantage point of a bouncer. So I just wanted to show the audience the atmosphere, the girls, and the crowd.
I'm like, not necessarily to name names, but on the celebrity side of things, right? Like, celebrities are in our society, they're the people that as untrue as we all know this is, people just believe that celebrities have better lives, or they have easier lives, or they have less problems, or less traumas, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just our society. And you got to see a vulnerability to them that most people don't see. I mean, maybe some of it's because of the alcohol, and maybe something, maybe there's some other factor altogether. But in your interactions with people who are celebrities, so to speak, like, what did you take away from those?
The human side, like you said, this the human side. You instantly, like, I grew up on them, so I have two different experiences.
Right.
People who know me know I always rave about Raekwon.
Yeah.
Because of this, how humble he was.
Right,
he was
right.
unnecessarily humble.
Like
this shook everybody's hand and
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
extremely welcoming.
Yeah.
And not like shook, not like, but just like regular, like
Right.
still the Raekwon or talk like him and everything. And then you have the extreme Jim Jones then. I don't know who he is now because it's 10 years, but he was getting on the bar with the mic and instigating stuff.
Yeah.
For which a bouncer, once again, now I'm putting something that has nothing to do with me.
Right.
And now, we got to protect him because it's an image and money to our club.
Yeah.
So if something happened to him, but you done. So,
right.
I mean, to answer it, you get all types of things. You get the ones who don't speak.
Right.
You get the real humble ones. I was around Kevin Hart right before he blew, and he was extremely cool. Charlemagne is more sensible and cooler and giving than people may know. DJ Envy is a human, like dope as hell, smacks everybody's hands. I was around Cardi B, and she was a regular person. I mean, so what I say to it is how you carry yourself. What I say with people with celebrities, like if you're just regular, then they're not going to treat you like a fan. They'll treat you like
right.
But if you come on someone who, 5 seconds, let me take a picture, or asking all of these
crazy
questions,
yeah.
You'll get that.
Yeah.
Response.
I dig it. Let's talk about the day job. And some of the things that you noticed, like there was a kind of merging of the two. I remember you telling me from a previous conversation, like it would be like you'd see the girl who couldn't make her appointment, but she was a girl that you knew from the club. You know what I mean?
Seen it that night.
Right.
And then show up.
Yeah. So in your day job, you're dealing with distressed families. You working with DYFS, and you're seeing all kinds of dysfunction, like in the house dysfunction, within the family dysfunction. You're seeing all the things that, as we like to joke about, unfortunately nowadays, like you're seeing all the things that don't get brought up around the holidays until somebody had a few drinks and then they start. But how was that different for you? Obviously, there are some very clear differences, but how was that different for you in terms of seeing people's humanity?
Well, I had the advantage that I was in that before I got into bouncing.
Okay.
So they both work off of each other. Bouncing, it's right in front of you. Whereas social work, it already happened, and you're trying to mend.
Got it.
So one you're trying to stop from happening or prevent from happening, diffuse, and one you're trying to say, "Oh, it already happened. How can we make it right?" You approach them the same way. I mean, for me, I approach them the same way. Everything from my heart. Everything, I would try to treat people with a level of empathy and respect that I would want catered to me.
Right.
But the parallels are strong. You see how alcoholism in action
Right.
at 1:00.
Right.
And then you see how a family can be on welfare because they're denying services at 2:00. And you understand deeply what was done to your people.
Yeah.
And the effect and the trauma we're living with, the services that are there but not really
Right.
for and
Right.
actually there for the people.
Right. Right.
And at the time, the job we're speaking of is the state organization.
Right.
So this is the top of the line. We're speaking of funding.
Yeah. It's crazy because I was, talking to my boy earlier this morning. We were talking about how, other cultures just move differently, whether it's in terms of building wealth or in entrepreneurship and business. And, culturally, there's so many things that we're just not told
Mm-hmm.
that other cultures just, they it's part of their culture. So they tell their children these things. So many things that just aren't a part of our culture because of the robbery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But nonetheless,
don't set me off because I'm about to start on my. I'm gonna start. Hey, listen, y'all can track me,
but it's there.
I find ways to interject this into any conversation.
Yeah. But it's like there's just so many things that like we don't know of or know to look for or know to question. And like you said, like when there's resources that are there but not really there, it's like
Well, let me. We've been numbed.
Yeah.
Our curiosity, our culture, our awareness,
Right.
our interaction with one another, it's been designed because of a study that took place 4, 5, 600 years ago.
Right.
And there's an understanding of how dynamic and how brilliant we are. And they always started from here, then here. The mind. Right. It was always separate the mind and make sure you poor education. Or remember, if we're old enough that you will get killed trying to read a book.
Yeah.
Down to okay, we'll give you inferior schools.
Yeah.
And they talk about upset because of sitting next to some white woman. Right. They were upset because they didn't want us to have access to the books. Right. Yeah. If you go to that school, you have access to that. Right. And then if you have access to that, you have access to that. Right. 500 years ago. Right. If you have access to that, then you become the warriors that threw us over the boat.
Yeah.
And
there's like there's so much that's like deeply ingrained in our DNA past the programming and conditioning. And there's just such an unearthing that we have to do. But we're in a very peculiar position globally. Like there is no other culture that has this particular experience and this history, right? And what we also know is history is a story told by whoever's dominant, like whoever won tells a story. You know what I'm saying? So we don't even know if our history is our history. You know what I mean?
We know now because you're telling stories. Episode 4, and you're going to keep telling them. You're going to keep having conversations with people.
Yeah.
You're going to keep asking them questions. They're going to tell your story, and people are going to start listening, and you're going to leave this here.
But this is what I'm talking about. And not in any disagreement. I agree with that completely. But I was looking at I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast. But there was this cat on there named Hotep Jesus, and he was talking about how he doesn't subscribe to the narrative as told of what the transatlantic slave trade was and how African people got to this landmass. So the prevailing narrative is that the African people ended up in the Americas by way of the slave trade.
I remember you telling me.
Yeah,
we broke this down.
Yeah, and his thing was like, no, we were already here.
And I believe that
transversing the Atlantic was something that we were doing long before, long before the Dutch, long before Christopher Columbus, like long before whatever gets the credit for it. Like this is what was happening, and so many of African people were in what's now known as the Americas. You know what I'm saying? And then
did he pinpoint the region?
Then throughout
what part of America?
Well, obviously there are like the indigenous people throughout the landmass, or the Mayan, Aztec, people who are more native to this North American and particularly what's now the United States. But just kind of, it was like a nomadic world at the time. You know what I mean? So if you have indigenous people and indigenous and benevolent, they're not trying to conquer. They're not trying to they're not trying to colonize. They're not trying to do these things. So it's like,
live life.
Then there's less and less reason to draw lines of like, this is mine, that's yours. These are the city limits, country limits, village limits. Like those things don't exist outside of that idea of colonizing and dominating.
So let me ask you this: from your objective analysis, how do we get from there to that, from right there to here to where we're at right now?
Ultimately, I think it comes down to organization and ruthlessness. Like if we were able to organize more and willing to kill more, we don't end up here. It's a different winner and it's a different story.
Got you.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But we bartered us away.
We
struck deals.
We bartered, struck deals, and at the very least, we believed that the villain would have a change of heart.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we believe that, like there is just this humanness that people can't escape, and if you give them enough time,
correct,
they'll come back to nobility and generosity and compassion and all these things. And it's like, that's disproven generation after generation after generation. But I believe that that's this, and I think that's an idea that people still hold on to.
Yeah,
that's
it is
that's why a lot of the, and I don't want to get too far away from the book, but that's what a lot of the quote unquote protests and resistance of our day, they carry a certain thread and a certain language that is hoping and asking the villain to have a change of heart. So it's like, how much revolution are you? You know what I mean?
I know why they hated Malcolm.
Yeah, right.
I know. I can understand it now.
Yeah, because it was like behind the curtain type of thing. It was like, oh, you don't resist and revolt.
Correct.
You create something new. You know what I mean? The founding fathers weren't protesters. They started something new, and were willing to fight. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the institutions.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm willing to fight and loot and kill. I'm willing to do all of that.
Drop it down.
You know what I'm saying? And that's how, the Civil War, same thing. There's these two sides that are both willing to fight and loot and kill. It's like, who's willing to fight, loot, and kill more?
And that's what we gotta be willing to do. That's what the true revolution is. It's not beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not even something you want to live to talk about.
But creation is a violent act.
Always, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I was in, you see birth. Yeah. I was in the room more different too, a C-section and that.
Yeah. It's like, it's a violent act.
Nothing peaceful about that.
You know what I mean? So like, we have to understand and embrace that. We have to embrace that creative violence. You know what I mean? In our personal lives, and then like beyond, and as a culture, as a society, as a people.
Well, that's a level of sacrifice I don't know if we're willing to make.
Well,
the idea and the theory is what you would need to execute it.
Yeah.
To get the change that we so hopelessly want.
Yeah.
But we've been conditioned, man. The things.
But here's the thing, though. We have been indoctrinated to believe that we're fragmented beyond repair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Those who don't read.
Yeah. Which is the vast majority.
Unfortunately.
Right?
That's why I'm writing books.
Yeah. but like, as much as we've been indoctrinated to believe that, we're seeing from other people that like, hey man, we're talking about world history here, and human history and American history, right? If I'm Irish and you're German, we both have a commonality.
Correct.
We can maintain our identity and our culture independently and still have a togetherness.
Your point was so good. That's why I move like that, and that's our weakness. We keep calling ourselves black and all of this stuff. African Americans, and there's no value in that.
What do you think we should call ourselves?
Well,
or what do you think we are?
We're Africans. We're from Nigerians, Kenyans, Ghanaians. You know, wherever we fall in on that beautiful continent.
Okay,
that's our closest truth. Now, from that, the culture and the tribe you belong to, that's your personal and family. But that's the value. Like when you say that, there's a pride, there's a unification that, I could be from way over here, but just because you're from this land that I'm from, I'm gonna give you something to eat, or make sure you get home, or refer you for a job, or make sure that we are okay.
Yeah.
And that's part of the act and the oppression that we're living, that we've been splintered. Our awareness, our culture.
Yeah.
The most important things that will cause people to unite. And I have to say that, unite first. If one person sacrifices, this whole thing can withstand that.
Yeah.
This thing can withstand 100 people.
Right.
But for what you're saying,
right,
violent acts and everything else, if you're saying 1 million,
right,
and still leave another 24 million of us.
Right.
I think it's 30 million of us here. Maybe, I don't know.
Depending on who's counting.
Who's counting? I could be wrong. But let's say 1 million said, I'm willing to die. Then the oppressor will cower. The oppressor will return back to that thing it was when it found itself lost on the land. It was all fours begging for you just to allow them to sit and eat and converse.
Yeah, like the distinction for Black people in America, or African people, or people from African descent in America, or people of the diaspora in America, or however non-European people on this landmass are identified and categorized. It's like there is, and this is just my opinion, there is both. Like, I believe African American, I believe, is the most accurate, because in America we created blues, and in America we created hip hop, and like our global contributions, some of them happened here, right? And the problem is, it would have
happened anywhere though.
It would have, but it happened here because of the gumbo of what became our existence in this country, right?
But United States is just a collection of different countries coming over here with their own beliefs. One country started it and has their hands and their blueprint around how this country functions. But the life of this country is just a collection of immigrants from different places. So when you just take that factor out and you start from the inside out opposed to the outside in, which is the truth of it, is always the outside in. Because even the science that you just said is, we came from somewhere here first before this. I'm willing to accept that.
Right.
But the truth is, we came from somewhere.
Right.
And the truth is, the value of cultural resources is there, not here. Everything, the money, the resources is there. And all of the rhythms that make up hip hop, the rhythms that make up blues, these things that we created here came from there.
Yeah. But
it was just named something else.
It was named something else, and it was patented, and somebody holds paperwork on it in this system, wherein, like,
that's the greatest crime.
They get to.
Oh no, that's back to what you said. The victor tells the story.
Right.
So we understand that. That's the raping. Continuous.
Right.
And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Because, in ways we're fighting back at that. We're expressing ourselves. We're showing young boys how to dream. We're showing possibilities. We're sitting here talking about, we ain't talking about no gang stuff. We ain't talking about nothing degrading women. Not one time. But we've been here building for some time now. So all of it is, we're fighting back at it. But back to your point, we need everybody to believe enough of themselves to join the fight.
Yeah. But we also need to establish our own law, like within ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you know, say we.
When I say we, and whoever we ends up being, right?
Correct. That's the thing that makes me nervous.
But for the sake of, listen, man, I believe bullying is appropriate in the right time and place. Sometimes you gotta like
for righteousness
push. Yeah, sometimes you gotta push past certain things. Like, we'll figure it out over there.
Correct.
But let's get over there.
We got to.
You know what I mean? So like we figure out who the we is, but let's bully through this.
But we kill Nipsey Hussle. We kill this one. We kill. Like, we so vicious.
But that's but that's a matter of us deciding how we view it.
Correct. Oh yeah. Correct.
Even if, listen, man, if I run a military and you run a military, and one of your operatives is a double agent for me, and they end up assassinating somebody, y'all didn't do anything. Y'all don't have to take ownership for what happened.
But
there was somebody.
That's logic, you saying?
Yeah.
Somebody you kill. That's the problem with killing. Once you kill, emotions evolve, and that's, you don't forget. You ride on emotions.
Yeah, but you still get to decide for yourself, like the narrative. People are going to decide the narrative regardless, because we're not purely emotional.
No.
There is time and space for reasonable thinking, and there's also more powerful than that is the ability to determine the narrative. Like, we can decide this is the narrative when it comes to this type of thing. We didn't do shit to ourselves. The op did something. They used one of ours to do it, but we don't take any ownership of this.
Correct.
We didn't kill nobody.
Correct.
And then it gets to like, so the thing I'm getting at is like, we have to be able to establish culturally our own law in terms of what our worldview is, what our sense of humanity is. Like, we decide for ourselves, like, 'cause everybody has their sense of humanity, and then the other people adopt it. You know what I mean? We have to establish for ourselves our own, like, articulated and tangible cultural touch points.
African Americans.
Whoever the we's are, whoever ends up being in the we group, right? But yes, but once we establish that, then it's a matter of whatever the prevailing constructs, whatever the prevailing ideologies, whatever the prevailing positions, whatever the prevailing politics are, that's their business. We're minding our business, which is how we see other cultures occupy and operate in this space, where it's like, okay, y'all can do what y'all want to. There is no Asian delegation.
Correct.
There is no you need Asians land. For Trump. There is no.
You need land for that.
You don't. Because why do you say you do need land?
To enact some of the things you're saying, laws, togetherness, regulation, community.
Nah, you don't. And here's why I say that. Because as long as you're willing to enforce your laws within yourself, this is what I'm talking. I'm talking about independence.
Okay.
So
what law? Yeah. Okay.
On my land or not on my land. If I'm willing to enforce the laws of my people,
give me an example of those laws.
Well, the mafia does that. That's how we know. That's how we know of what we know is La Cosa Nostra and the mafia in America. It's like these people created their own structure, had their own laws, was willing to enforce them inside and outside, within themselves and of others.
Yeah, and they had a 40-year run.
Yeah, but it started with this same mindset.
It started from there. Yeah, we speak to here. They had a 40-year run. It's popular, but that in the scheme of things.
But there's a difference with there. Like, there's nuances in for example, everybody of Italian American or Sicilian descent wasn't a made man.
Now, let me stop you there and then tie it back. That's what makes it strong, because you don't get in the mob unless your blood is directly connected to that.
Yeah, but you also don't get in there.
You don't even sniff the mob. You can do things outside and work as this, that, or third, but you don't sniff the blood unless you go back to the origins again, because that's the unifying thing.
Yeah, but that's the distinction. What I'm saying is they had 40 years because everybody who was Italian American couldn't be in it. Everybody wasn't made.
of course.
You know what I mean? Like you might have been a worker,
correct, but you
but
can't even. You're not even to the table unless you're Italian. You're not even. It's not even consideration, and that goes back to the power of origins, power of lineage, of where you come from.
Yeah, but sorry.
So to enact and to do something like this, I get that. Number one, how do you communicate that to masses? You know, how do you
make it?
then,
you make it. You put it in the prevailing communication vehicles. So if it's the music, you put it in the music. If it's in television, you put it in television. If it's in the books, you put it in the books.
So now you need money. You got to infiltrate. You got to infiltrate a system that is guarded. A
Great.
system that the system. The same thing you said is the same system that's been oppressing us. They already studied that. They know the value of that, of controlling media and all of that.
Yeah.
They'll protect that. They'll blow this whole thing up before they let you get that.
Well, that's all right, but you got to be willing to blow this whole thing up too.
That goes back to the sacrifice thing.
Yeah.
Violence and blood, and are people who are so divided and have so many different intentions that don't even identify themselves as anything that's unified. Are they willing to sacrifice this for someone that they never met? Are they willing to put their life on?
I don't know.
Life on the line?
But we are either whoever we are either moving to do this thing or we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some of the problem becomes when we're not willing to act. We're just willing to pontificate.
I get that now, and that's real. And what I would say to this conversation and to everyone that's born after is to get one word and one step closer to laying your life on the line for your brother or sister, even if we don't experience it. You know, just to lay that seed and to put a little water on it for the next one, and that's just as good as the actual act of sacrificing yourself.
So let me ask you this, because I think what this still the world that this still lives in and it all ties back to is seeing that at DYFS at the day job, like seeing like these are just the end results of 400, 500, 600 years of genocide, terrorism, you know,
that's dope the way you spin it.
Chattel slavery, manipulation of media, manipulation of government, you know, manipulation of finances, mass bombings and shootings, riots, all of that, right?
Welfare, government cheese, and
right. But everybody who is receiving these services or in the building to receive these services are viewed as the author and not the result. Everybody has to own their alcoholism, their substance abuse, their psychological dysfunctions. Like there isn't a space for it where it's like you are the result of hundreds and hundreds of years of being fucked with.
No, the system was not going to show that level of sensitivity.
Right.
By the time your name gets to DYFS, the gavel's already slammed.
Yeah.
And the judge, you know, it's court ordered.
Right.
So your kids
this is a mandated thing.
It's mandated. Yeah. So you put that together well, actually, because yes, you are judged. You do have to jump through hoops.
Right.
To gain respect.
Right.
Then more hoops to gain your children back.
Right.
So, you know, and for people who grew up in a system, grew up as DYFS kids or grew up on welfare or grew up in a impoverished situation, it's very hard to settle in and to really abide by the rules and regulations passed down by the same judge that put your father in jail.
Right.
Because once again, that's where it all starts from. DYFS is always just the middleman. We just do what the court asks us to do.
Yeah.
And they might say in order for a father or mother to regain custody, they got to complete 9 months of parenting classes, or anger management, or get a psychological evaluation, or anything along the lines. And if they don't do that, then the kids stay in temporary foster care. Right. And if they take too long of that, then the kids will go up for adoption. Yeah. And the case is closed, and you'll have no contact until they're 18. So like you just did, that is slavery. Yeah. It's more slow motion. They'll mask it behind abuse, neglect, but it's big numbers. But I'll even say this though, up north, I mean, we always see our people, but when it comes to those big numbers on welfare, it's always Caucasians. When it comes to those bigger numbers, as far as child services and DYFS organizations, is bigger numbers for them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
and that's why I made that comment earlier in terms of like if there's whatever 30 million of us, 40 million of us, however many. It's like it depends on who's counting and who's and how you regard their count.
Correct.
Because like they're gonna tell you,
tell you what they want to tell you.
They're gonna tell you what they want to tell you. I had this, this thought, and I believe it's, incredibly valid in the grand scheme of things. Of like, it's if we are whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theorists or what have you, but it makes all the sense in the world for the whoever's dominant, whoever's the oppressor, to tell you, hey, we're counting how many of us are in the room, and we're going to tell you how many of y'all are here. Imagine if you could. Imagine if one army got to count the other army's infantry. You know what I'm saying? And tell them how many men they got.
Correct. But no one knows the real number.
Of course they're gonna tell y'all. Y'all only got 300.
Correct.
It's 13,000 of us. Y'all got 300. You sure you want this fight?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a perception.
And that's what I feel like.
That's a condition.
Goes on. It's like who's counting and how are we checking their count?
And that's why I said what I said about what they would do if you try to infiltrate their media, because that's where it starts. I have children, I have kids, you have kids, and they're of age, and you know what gets most of their attention. We both live in close radius to parks,
right,
and we know how empty they are,
right.
You know what I mean? And it's a different time, and we have to be able to think out of the box. I think we're blessed enough because we came from a generation where, call waiting. We seen that come into play on payphones and you know what I mean, and having to mail stuff and books or even to put the paper bag on your book for the book coverage.
Yeah.
Not paper bag, the shop right.
The shopping bag, yeah.
So I mean, that's the advantages of evolution in ways, and we as a people have to think outside of the box, but not really outside of the box they put us in. We need to start to think like us.
There you go.
But
100%.
How do we do that for the masses when conditioning starts from day one?
Yeah, but that's the thing. We talking about human history, man. Everybody had their time. Like we look at this particular scope as like the ultimate, and it's like, nah, that's just this moment.
Correct. I submit to that
You
theory.
know what I'm saying?
I said that 10 minutes ago. Like we might not see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like that was an optimistic type of statement.
For sure.
Like we might, but I do believe that's going to come.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do believe that. That's why I'm writing books. You know what I mean? So I might not be there, but I'll be on someone's shelf.
Right.
Or digitally on somebody's hard drive.
Right. Yeah. The third area of the book talks more about you as a man and your personal struggles. And one of the things that I really dug about, like the way you explained this to me and broke this down to me before, was like, this was just another layer of you seeing the spectrum of humanity. Like being inside the trouble, being inside the whatever the category or the judgment that gave you another way to see, like, this is humanity. And nobody is just one thing. Nobody is the worst of themselves. Nobody is simply their mistakes or their poor judgment or choices or whatever. Like, people get boxed into, you are a crackhead. You are, whatever. But like, people get boxed into the worst of themselves as their whole identity. You know what I mean? And, you got to see, like, it's never that simple.
No, it's not. People get boxed into the decisions.
Yeah.
The decisions you make, rather be going to class, not going to class, taking a job, not smoking that, drinking this. And like in this chapter, I made decisions that, stripped my little force field away from me, put me in just out there in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And, now I'm in survival mode.
Right.
And survival mode compromises you.
Right.
It compromises your moral.
Right.
Your mentality.
Or test them at least.
It definitely tests them. Yes, absolutely. I want to actually say that it tests them. Some people pass, some people fail.
Right.
Some people have to fail to pass. You know, so I definitely like to say that
Yeah.
opposed to compromise,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
are who you are.
Right.
You know, this chapter was, you know, the therapy of it all,
Yeah.
because the mirror was solely on me, the cause and effect of
Mm-hmm.
my own actions and how that had an effect on my levels.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just stripping down everything. It's just being honest.
Yeah.
You know, embracing ugly truths.
Yeah.
You know, I put horror movies. You know, I
Right. Right.
kind of
Right.
parallel that to domestic violence.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
and so on and
Right.
so forth.
Right.
So
Right.
this is the book. This is
Yeah.
the uncomfortable but most necessary part of the book.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Damn, that's powerful. Yeah.
You know, without this, I had to go through this to do my job. Before we started taping this, you know, you had a chance to hear me do my job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think 3 phone calls, if
Mm-hmm.
not to be exact. And you know, by going through everything that I went through, going through my pain, inflicting pain on other people, overcoming pain, helping
Mm-hmm.
people heal from theirs, I know what pain sounds like. I know what tone that needs to be delivered back.
Right.
I know what level of attention,
Right.
when to cut it off. But that's all just scars.
Yeah.
You know, that's it's back to my first book, dumb wise man, wise dumb man.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right. 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 Right.
and that's what this chapter's about.
Yeah. Yeah. How long did it take you to write this book?
Um, the stages. So I would say 5 years. I had a
Okay.
version of it. I gave you the review, a version of it,
Wow.
2015, I
Yeah.
think it was. Then I really went through the big struggle, which
Right. Right.
encompassed chapter 3 and
Right.
4.
Right. Right.
There was no chapter 4 at the time.
Okay.
So the book was just poems.
Right.
And as I evolved and as I tried to attempt to capture these moments, I knew I had to add the narratives.
Yeah.
I knew I needed something that was clear cut, that people didn't have to interpret. Even though my poetry is
Mm-hmm.
something that you can kind of grasp,
Mm-hmm.
I still wanted it to be detailed. And the narratives itself took about a year and a half.
Yeah. So for almost half the time you've been writing books, you've been writing this book.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
depth.
yeah, yeah. We create. I mean, shoot, you do the same thing. Shoot, you know how we get down. We're the doers. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah.
You know, New York Times,
Mm-hmm.
camera,
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
You
But it's
know,
like it's bugged out when you don't know all the ingredients.
no.
You know what I'm saying? You never know all, like you can't. Life is constantly surprising you with the ingredients to your story. You know what I mean? You think you're made up of this, and this,
Mm-hmm.
and then life shows you like, nah, you got a lot of this in you too. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Matter of fact,
Absolutely.
you got a couple sprinkles of that over there in you.
Yes, you do.
You know, and you find yourself in a certain place at a certain time. You got some of this in you too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's really eye opening. It's really humbling. It's really humbling to see, like, and I think that that's why your book and your writing in general resonates the way it does, because it comes from a place of humility. It doesn't come from a place of, let me show you how to live a better life. Let me show you how to be a better version of you. Let me tell y'all all of the wisdom that I learned and that I know. And, you know,
So you want
because
me
of my generous big heart, I'm willing to share with you. It don't come from that type of place.
you
It
want me
comes
to
from,
preach to you?
no, it don't come. It's not preachy. Like it's none of that. You know what I mean? But it comes from a real place of, like, you know, understanding, first person understanding, dynamic understanding, and humility. Like it comes from, like, you know, again, like you said, chapter 4 wasn't even in your mind at first to write this, right? But it took
Literally.
humility not only to open your mind to writing a chapter 4, but actually writing chapter 4 and putting that truth in there.
Yeah.
You know, you could have put out a concept piece without chapter 4,
Yeah.
but there's more truth if you include chapter 4.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
That brings in relationship with my kids. It brings in depression.
Mm-hmm.
You know, black men dealing with depression,
Yeah.
identifying, submitting it, and then climbing that tall hill of overcoming.
Right. Right.
And I felt that chapter was important,
Yeah.
because I got to a point where I so-called lost it all, or I was on my low, and I was in the pit of all my mistakes, and I felt a certain way, but I'm naturally built optimistic. I had this very craft to lean on, even though it was very hard to write. It was hard to write during that period. I knew I had something out there. That's what importance of the self-awareness stuff we was talking about earlier. Just understanding who you are, what you do well, connecting yourself with that. But chapter 4 was extremely important. The expungement part, regaining your life.
Yep.
I wanted to write the book, and I wanted the book to reflect the interactions I've had over the last 6 years and moving forward. I'm speaking to a certain people. I'm speaking to those that are in the group homes or in the shelters, and our halfway houses or in our prisons. And I'm speaking to those who are in the colleges too, and in the high schools, and the young mothers and young fathers, that we are not our decisions, we're not our mistakes.
Right.
We go through things, but we have the capacity to overcome.
Yeah.
And we don't have to live within the struggle. We don't have to be defined by our struggles.
Man. Yeah, man, I'm ended there. That was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. And that was poignant, man. That's like, we need to carry that thought with us every day. You know what I mean? Whatever the worst of our days are, if we woke up the next morning, it could have been worse.
Blessing, especially in COVID times and etc. It's a blessing. We have to slow down. Let's grasp ourselves. Let's believe that we're more than what we were either taught or shown, that we are kings and queens. And let's try to connect, man.
Yeah. Word. Thank you, fam. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.